Hi there and welcome back to Japan, where I'm going to be doing my first ever listen and therefore reaction to Saori Hayami, yes that's correct, with the song Let Me Hear. Now, as you know, since the channel's returned, we have to do this slightly differently now, so basically I'm about to give you the review. If you want to see the reaction that I just did, click the link in the description below and it'll open a separate YouTube player where you can basically watch that. So pause this now if you need to see the reaction first, otherwise here comes the review. You ready? Are you ready for it? You ready for it? Okay, so as I was kind of saying in the reaction, this is a really nice, simple one to sum up in many ways, and yet there is a lot of finesse to talk about. I mean, I loved so much about the way that this was both performed and the way that the sounds were interpreted into it. The singing was gorgeous. I mean, there's no doubt that her voice is amazing. Her vocal control was beautiful. The whole tone, everything, it sounded thick, full, wonderful. It was one of those voices where it didn't have the sort of bellowing, massive sound to it. It just had just the right amount of volume, of fullness, and it was perfect for the song. So this song was, might well have been written for her, but even if it wasn't, it sounds like it was written for her. Brilliant stuff. In regards to the backing vocals as well, they were brilliant. I loved the way they kept such a fantastic, nice, creamy, smooth. It was just ultimate professionalism from the backing vocals there. Now, obviously, like most music videos, although this is done to look like a live studio session, I'm guessing that this isn't, because some of those things that I saw and heard didn't quite match up. However, it did have that sort of almost studio live quality to it. It was very simple, stripped back, live sounding, and like you'd expect from something quite soulful. It sounded like it was a very real track. And thus, credit where it's due to the guitarist and the keyboard player, the organ player, whatever you want to call them, for, like I say, picking just really fantastic tones. Might have had help with the producer on doing that, but just really nice how the guitar sort of stepped up in various places, how it sounded nice and punchy but never intrusive, kind of like the vocals, getting the sound so they are having the right impact without being overbearing or without being too far the other way, without being too light. And same choice with the Hammond organ. I love when people use that sort of Hammond electric organ sound. I think it's one of the most underrated sounds you could use in music, especially in this type of music. You can't do this type of music without an electric organ in there. So I love the way that was delivered. The little sort of bounces on the keys. It was never too much. It was always just there to give a little bit of impact, to give a little bit of a sort of rounded edge to the heavier notes in the song. The whole thing just to me felt very well executed, which is quite interesting because the song itself is incredibly simple. I mean, it's one of those sort of little ditties. It's, if you strip it back, I say this about some songs, if you strip that back and just sung it with acoustic guitar, it could just sound like a normal campfire song. It's not got anything particularly complicated happening in any of the writing, to be honest. And, that's not always a bad thing. Some songs you do need that. Some songs you need that to justify maybe more complicated themes, more complicated mood, maybe to justify a longer run time, maybe just to justify the number of musicians if you're already a pre-existing band. It's the sort of thing where sometimes you want to do that. But when you've got something like this where it seems to be a singer with her session musicians and they're just writing a song that just gives a simple, fun, dancey vibe and is catchy and sticks in your head, then that's it. They've done it right. They've done it perfectly. Don't get too spectacular, just write it so that it sounds catchy and then play it so that it works. So it's a marriage of intelligently well-judged writing along with very well-judged performances and well-judged production. This whole song to me just feels like something which was produced with a knowledge for what works, for a knowledge with what just sounds good. Yeah, obviously I would understand if anyone said on the flip side that means that the song kind of maybe it doesn't stand out as having its own identity. Maybe it could just sort of be bookmarked along with a lot of other songs with similar genre. That might well be true. I'm not going to argue with that. However, this is something where, maybe it's just me, just the whole sound of it really appeals to me. I love the way it was delivered. And I definitely would find my way back to this. Even if it isn't quite catchy enough to be one that I would probably be listening to for years and years to come, I definitely would find myself coming back to this either in the near future or in the far future at some point. Yeah, just real fun and pleasure for the ears. Nicely delivered. Also, credit to the drum beat. There was no drummer in the video, and I can't help but feel, just because of how tight the drums were, that it might have been an electrically performed drum beat, like a program drum beat. Obviously, as a lot of you guys know, you can do drum beats now so well on a computer that they literally are impossible to differentiate from the real thing, because a lot of them use recordings from real drum kits anyway, of various pressures and everything. So Given how tightly that was recorded, had a beautiful tone, but it could well have been a computer-played drum kit or a real drum kit. Either way, it was nice. It had a lot of life, a lot of bounce. It had some good presence in the higher ranges as well. The snare was nice and had a lot of bounce to it as well. But the kick landed also, so it covered a lot of ranges, and it was nice and sharp, so it didn't interrupt with any of the other instruments playing. It was just sort of broke through at the right points. Yeah, I loved a lot about the way this is being done. As I say, I'm more than willing to accept the argument that it doesn't sort of doesn't cross any new bridges, doesn't break any new ground, doesn't, maybe if you're familiar with a lot of songs in this genre, maybe doesn't surpass some other songs. You might well find yourself putting this quite low on the list of other comparative songs. However, unless you've got a very long list of other comparative songs, I would be very surprised by anyone who didn't want to come back to this. I just think it's, like I said, I just think it's a really good listen, really enjoyable, and I do recommend you guys go and check this one out and get yourself a copy. Do all that normal commercial stuff that consumers do. We're all consumers in this wonderful capitalist dystopia. No, I'm not like that, don't worry. I do genuinely believe that this is a sort of song which, even if you don't remember it, when you eventually come back around to hearing it, you'll be happy that you heard it again. All right, anyway, thank you so much for following this video as always. And remember, now is the bit where you get in the comments. So like the video first of all would be really cool. But get in the comments, tell me what you think, whether you liked it or not, whether you know the artist or not. Remember, we've also got chats going on our Discord and Reddit about Japanese music of all genres pretty much all the time, which is linked in the description below as well, along with my Facebook, the Twitter, and of course the Patreon for you wonderful people who help support the channel. So look, either way, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. And for now, from Japan, until I see you hopefully very soon next video. Ciao, ciao.